Today we're gonna talk trains, train liveries, navigation systems and other fun stuff trains. This video is actually a summary of my bachelor thesis on this topic about train design in Czechoslovakia. How it was never great to begin with, how it kept getting worse, and how after the breakup in the 90s, one country managed to get it actually right, while the other not so much. And how I pretentiously think I can fix it. So you might think this is all very subjective and everyone has a slightly different taste, but I hope that after you hear my points, we'll be on the same page, or at least a bit. So there is a lot to untie in the root of bad design practices. It never really starts out bad, but without planning ahead, your bad decisions can pile up on many more bad decisions, and it usually ends up in a state where the only recourse is to scrap it whole because no one wants to deal with it anymore. This ties a lot into train liveries and navigation systems, where you should get it right the first time, because if you don't, it's really difficult to fix afterwards. For example, Slovak railways didn't have a unified design manual until 2008. Made by marketers, so until then they had to work around it. My dad actually used to work there at the time with property management, and it was his and his colleagues' job to design client centers. Marketing department, whose task it actually was, put just their hands off of it. So the result was a bunch of office workers and analysts designing a whole client centers in Excel. I'm looking at you, designer snowflakes, who have a hard time transitioning from Adobe to Affinity. Oh, Affinity is hard. Try Excel next time. Chapter 1. The olden times, when they thought they got it right, but not really. It's the 60s in communist Czechoslovakia. All the steam locomotives were being discontinued, and electrification was on its way. Most trains were painted according to some obscure rules that mostly stopped making sense after the war. Railway was still considered a critical military infrastructure after all, so trains were too. Most coaches were painted with dark shade of green and bright yellow navigation system. Class numbers, coach technical specs. Its sheer rationality made it kinda beautiful when you think about it. In this period, everything was prescribed in some kind of directive. Railway liveries and all graphical elements were based off several directives. Type of paint, pictogram height, logic behind navigation systems. Imagine you have an everything guidebook. That was basically it. Chapter 2. It's getting worse. In addition to rules from the 70s, new directives are getting a bit messy. First, a 30 cm high orange stripe was added to the front and back of every locomotive, made to aid visibility, but it was never confirmed that this actually worked, or at least I couldn't find anything that would prove it. But there was one design bright spot, literally. In the 60s, Škoda was tasked with creating a new type of dual system locomotive. Design part was handled by Otakar Diblik, a prolific product designer from Prague. He and his team managed to utilize a new technology in bodywork materials, a glass laminate substance used for all sorts of insane curves. The new locomotive was later called Laminatka after the substance. It's indeed very lovable. Ivan, does having a crush on a train make me weird?
I think it's fine.
He says it's fine. That's good. The real deal that changed liveries were new locomotives with a completely new design language. New liveries expanded on the orange stripe idea, and they basically put a wide yellow stripe all around the locomotive. So it was like yellow, green, blue, red, whatever the electrical receptacle was for that locomotive. It's a bit complicated. But you know, it takes a long time to repaint hundreds of locomotives to the new system. Otherwise, the design will wreak chaos. But don't worry, after communism falls and Czechoslovakia splits up, funding won't be cut. No reasons why it would be. Unless, of course, we account for socio-political crisis, economic collapse, mafia state and population exodus, just to name 4. In that regard, railway design is doomed. We're gonna focus on railway design in Slovakia from now on. Czech Republic has its own story, which I'm not really talking about here, so you can check a different video for that. Railway vehicles here were handled by, just said, Slovak railways in short, which could have gone better. Official policy of the time was to preserve the livery that was most applied to any vehicle for the lack of money, you know, like state was crumbling. This resulted in a total mess, ranging from understandable to absolutely mental. White logo and technical specs on yellow background? Wait, how did they do? Cool. Until a few years later, when railways commissioned the architect Pavel Ondrejka for a full redesign. New logo, new visuals, and importantly for us, completely new livery system. He managed to incorporate new logo into the livery, which boasted 3 thick white lines. Yes, that's right. You're right. We got Gopnik Adidas before it was cool. I'm sorry. His design is also notable for other aspects. It's the first time since the war there was a livery intended for the passenger. Regular and local trains were repainted to be green, fast trains to be red and night trains to be blue. Good idea in theory, but in reality fast and regular trains swapped a lot of coaches together, so after a while all-day trains consisted of red-green mess. Good try, Pavel. It was good for your time. Just don't try again. We also got some gems I just couldn't leave out. When I was a kid, I sometimes saw this obscure monster of a train. I just couldn't figure it out. Why would anyone do that? It looks like it was drawn by crayons. So, you know, roll back to my preliminary research last year when I found this gem in the archive. Yep, that's the original. And yes, those are crayons. I also found out that in some first-class coaches they installed seats from decommissioned airplanes. For some reason, that's interior design for ya. In 2002, after several years, railways split up into different entities, state-owned company that managed infrastructure and new train service company. So in the marketing fail of century, a gesture that was already well established with the public remained as a rail manager. And like a new railway company emerged. Welcome, Railway Company Incorporated. I'm sorry, welcome, Railway Company Slovakia Incorporated. I'm just gonna call them Slovak Railways again, just to save myself from a stroke. Their logo was chosen in a design competition, sealed by the Ministry of Transport. I mean, seriously, why orange? It doesn't have anything with railway colors? I have no idea what they were thinking. Notable to say, that same orange will come back to bite railways' asses a bit later. Against all odds, Slovak Railways brought a lot of fresh air to the market. New communication, new customer service, and above all, new color scheme, designed by an established designer, Daniel Blonsky. And that was a proper redesign. Red and white stripes with some grey dibblidos at the bottom. It also works well with chrome roofs, which are notoriously hard to paint on. He finally took care of multiple units and locomotives, something that vocal railway workers really despised. Good stuff. He also never confirmed this, but it's generally speculated that he was advised to mostly stick to red and white colors, because that's what railways had in storage at the time. He also managed to persuade the marketing department to change the logo from orange to red, so it fits well. So, end of story. Design got better. Everyone should be happy. And bye-bye. But no! Chapter 4. Just keep your hands off of it. I think it's fair to say that Blonsky's design was a bit undercooked. Just to say, when we talked together with Mr. Blonsky, he told me that the final design is a product of a compromise and many good ideas he had got scrapped. And the result is the most milquetoast that would pass. So this is by no means criticism of Mr. Blonsky. Not even 2 years after his proposal, which includes double-decker trains, railways backtracked. They ordered 30 trains from Škoda and handed over the livery design to them. But once you try coupling them with regular coaches, ouch, that's not exactly seamless. Not focusing enough on multiple units is, in my opinion, the biggest flaw of Blonsky's design. This actually left Slovak Railways scrambling to figure out the liveries on their own. For Škoda, with their experienced design team, that wasn't really a problem, but for companies like Žozvrúdsky, which were more of a reclaimed train servicing depot trying to manufacture their own trains, things got experimental. And the result? A power-hungry diesel multiple unit with reversed color layout. And again, just to say, I don't have a problem with the liveries as is. My gist is mostly that no one is trying to make it cohesive. Just randomly splashing red and white wherever you like, that's not visual direction. This is starting to snowball. So let's just recap next 10 years so we got everything straight. 2015, new marketing lead endorsed the original design manual by Kolovratok. Remember the funny orange logo? It's back! From now on we can see red-white trains and orange marketing materials. 2016, National Party politician advocates for the railways to add national carrier to the name. Tries to enforce it, it ends up as expected. 2018, Slovak Railways bought electric multiple units from Škoda with this livery, supposedly designed by Studio Auffair. These trains were put into service in 2020. 2023, marketing lead announces new visual direction for the company, not changing anything about the orange marketing problem, but they tried to fix the only part of the design that has actually proven itself: locomotive liveries.
The key aspect in the decision-making process was to maintain consistency with the existing design of rolling stock. Slovak Railways approached 3 entities and decided on all-fair design, then paid €4,800 for the winning design and its development.
Was the branding and rolling stock design language consistent before redesign? No. Is it consistent after? No. They're not streamlining the ideas, just adding new ones into the chaos. And also, if you always complain about not having money for marketing, why pour peanuts into poorly botched job? We're starting to lose focus again. Lots of visual and brand elements need fixing. Where do we use black foil in between windows? How to do it consistently? Can we tie it into our product strategy? Fast trains get it, slow trains don't. Easy. Then the orange-red problem. Some trains have white doors, some trains red. That's not really inclusive for people with poor eyesight. So what did they focus on, really? They made double-decker trains look like a German commuter rail for some reason. Cool. And they added a swoosh, which breaks their own logo guidelines. And also, it's a little bit skewed, isn't it? Just look at it, right? As you've probably noticed, livery design can get pretty deep and complex. So it needs me to fix it. I know what I'm talking about. Part X. Wait, what? First of all, I had to decide what I wanted to accomplish. In this case, it was all about giving Mr. Blonsky's design a facelift to reflect modern needs of Slovak railways. So first, it should support all current rolling stock and even the new one. Second, it should make everything compatible with each other. And third, it should be more trademarkable. So first, I started tweaking the basic drafts Mr. Blonsky kindly provided. And after a lot of time, I landed on this one. It's basically 2 additional stripes from border to border. Dark grey, light grey, orange and red. But you might ask, Dalibor, how does adding 2 stripes actually solve anything? Well, my dear, it solves everything. Now, let's take a moment to compare the double-decker draft with the stripy version. And yeah, you can see it, right? They're light years apart, not even close. But it gets better. The colors here are way more original, which means we can actually play with them a bit. The same applies to locomotives. Making them stand out more can be beneficial for practical design as well. For example, it's way easier to spot a train rushing towards you if the front is designed differently. Among others, door design is also crucial for a well-functioning livery. Blonsky's original design was fine, nothing wrong with it, but I believe I could push it a bit further. So imagine this, doors have to be visible from distance. The original red-white combo is quite visible already, and we can see where his inspiration came from. 20 years ago, a lot of coaches still had open-ended steps. So this color combo actually helped blend the new and old doors. Quite nice. But as with everything, it doesn't hold well in many new train sets. So a makeover. What if the doors had different color? Black is used a lot in modern train liveries to indicate speed and to blend surfaces, so let's use it to make doors stand out more. Also, let's add dark grey to compensate for the blend with light grey at the bottom. And last thing, let's add visual element to catch people's attention to the bottom, so they don't trip up when there is a level gap. This version shouldn't have any problems on all sorts of trains. By the way, I'm making this sound way easier than it actually was. I kept having to go back whenever I realized that the design I was working on didn't fit certain vehicles. See this one? That was a pain to get right. So, after a few months of work, I started to be comfortable with the design, but something kept bugging me. You know, the livery needed one special thing. Just one more thing, Tim. One very new uniting element. So I thought of this. I called it a boomerang. Remember how I said black is often used in liveries to indicate speed? This is what I meant. I can adapt it to any type of logo. Somewhere in full size, somewhere smaller, and somewhere it just looks like a little eyelash. I'm really proud of that one. Oh yeah, and could you believe that at this point I still had no idea how to actually present my designs? Part meh, presentation and conclusion. This was like 2 weeks before final deadline and I stopped eating at all. I just didn't have the appetite for it. So I had the idea to present my work on 3D models. I created a list of all trains I wanted to model in Blender. Locos, coaches, multiple units. Bought some energy drinks from the lack of time and I just did it. It took around 2 days, but it was done. So how to leverage these 3D models? I made some renders, whatever. But what if I could put the whole thesis up on the web and make it always accessible? What if I could make an interactive website where users could build their own train and check that my designs are actually compatible with each other? Oh, for goddamn sake, you know what's going to happen, right? So the website works like this. You click on any train you want here from the menu. That creates your train down below and also on the 3D viewport. Randomly generated trains are also heading in the other direction, so it's not that stale. You can customize the train, you can move, and if you become bored after a while, via this button you can access my whole thesis. It's also in English. In addition to that, I made 2 books. First, the thesis, and the second, a design guideline with all my visualizations, models and navigation systems, livery logic, everything. I wrote it in a style that would suit me just walking into Slovak Railways HQ and dropping it there. Like that. Don't ask, just do it this way, and don't contact me ever again. You can check their content on the website as well. So this should have been a conclusion, but I actually forgot to write it, so... You know, when I first picked this topic, I just didn't really think it would be such a rabbit hole. When I was researching all this material, the thing I always thought of, how so many people tried it, you know, designers try designing trains, non-designers try designing trains, and also marketers cosplaying as designers try designing trains, and I don't really know in which bunch am I going to end up, right? So I'm not sure that my design is also up for the job. I just tried my best and it might work, it might not. You know, I gave it a fair shot. I think I'm not the one to judge, you know. Others will have to judge my work. While I was working here, I started noticing the small, subtle details in everyday design. And that's fine, you know. Maybe this video came through as a bit prudish or cynical, but I really thought that like there was a lot of fun to be had, and I tried to highlight the good stuff in the history. So that's the video. I think it should be all good. Cool. See ya!